Hey everyone, Ben Lewis here at the Financial Planning Association. This November, we're opening FPA Summit 2026 with someone I guarantee you will be amazed by, Nicole Malachowski. Nicole was the first woman to fly with the Air Force Thunderbirds, flew combat missions as an F-15E fighter pilot, went on to command her own fighter squadron, and later served as a White House fellow advising two first ladies. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to chat with Nicole and to give you a preview of what she's bringing to our opening general session, a talk called Pushing the Envelope. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
It's great to be here, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is going to be terrific, and I'm so looking forward to having you join FPA Summit this year.
I'm looking forward to it too, friend. Looking forward to it.
That's going to be great. So everyone here just met you through your resume, and it's a very brief part of your resume, and it's obviously extremely impressive. But what's one thing about your story you wish came up first before any of that?
You know, it's interesting. I think when we meet people, resumes and accolades and awards and all those things often lead, right? It's how we introduce people. It's how we learn about people. But I've often found that for me, I love it when people ask me about the times that I failed, the times that I made mistakes, the times that, things didn't go according to plan. And that's usually the question I'll ask other people, because I think those are the moments that actually shape us, into who we are. There's a lot of people that don't know that, I failed a major check ride at pilot training. There's a lot of people that don't know I was medically retired for a brain injury at a time and place that I wasn't prepared for. So I think it's in these kind of challenges, the mistakes, the failures, the times you're humbled, that we get the biggest lessons learned.
That's great. And so I know you've said that your proudest moment as a pilot wasn't like a record or a medal. It was leading the first fighter formation to secure Iraq's 2005 elections. Why that moment? What did that teach you about what real impact looks like?
Yeah, at that time I was about a senior captain in the Air Force. I had achieved almost every certification and qualification you could have as a fighter pilot, and I knew what I was doing as a fighter pilot. I was good at it. I was confident at it. But when I led those flights over the Iraqi election day, I think that's the first time in my career I realized why I actually had put on my nation's uniform. This idea that I was a part of history, that we were there to defend freedom, which I think is an inherent human right, that we were there to protect this privilege of voting. And I think I sat there and I watched countless Iraqis stand in line, literally risking their lives to do something that we as Americans, I think, all too often take for granted. And in today's environment, we all have different perspectives on things and different ideas. But I think this story is just a reminder, man, utilize that privilege of the vote. That's how we change the world. That's how we make positive impact. And that was the day I realized why I was wearing my nation's uniform.
It's amazing. So let's transition here for a second, specifically to FPA Summit. So your talk is called Pushing the Envelope. Now, for those of us who have never flown a fighter jet, I'm one, and I'm sure many of the people who are going to be watching this haven't ever flown a fighter jet. What does a performance envelope mean? And why is it the right metaphor for what leaders are up against right now?
Sure, absolutely. When we're talking about aviation and aircraft, the envelope is actually where you can max perform the aircraft, where you can be utilizing that aircraft to its most effective, power and abilities. And in an aircraft, it usually is based on, maybe your altitude, your speed, the temperature that day, the weight of the aircraft, what kind of munitions you might be carrying. And for me, it's a really good metaphor for us as leaders and teammates. Each of us has very unique strengths and skill sets. And the way we get to elite team performance is to have the confidence, the courage, I think the vulnerability to bring all of ourselves to work every day. And when I talk about pushing the envelope, I'm also talking about us as leaders and teammates creating an environment around us where everybody else on the team can bring the best of themselves as well.
So it's also pushing others. So
absolutely. Yeah. Making sure everybody rises to the occasion and uses their unique strengths to that maximum effective nature.
It's fantastic. So I know you talk about moving beyond resilience to what you call resurgence. What's the difference, and why does that distinction really matter for someone running a financial planning practice or really any business?
Sure. Yeah. I didn't know the difference between resilience and resurgence until I went through a very traumatic medical situation. So, my 21 plus year amazing Air Force career came to an end overnight due to a very unexpected brain infection that caused brain injury. long story short, the term resilience, I think we're all quite familiar with. And resilience is important. When we have a mistake, when we have a failure, when we have a bad day, resilience is our ability to get up the next morning, get back into the cockpit and fly again, go back into the office, and serve those clients. And it's about bouncing back to your old self. But I think sometimes in life, we will go through what I call crucible experiences. In my case, it was the brain infection. For a lot of us, maybe it was enduring COVID and what that did to our businesses, our families, and communities. We'll
Sure.
go through these crucible experiences that fundamentally change who we are. And that's what I mean by resurgence, because there's no bouncing back to your old self. Your old self doesn't exist anymore. Resurgence is about growing into, I think, a better version, a newly formed, stronger version of yourself. And I'm thinking, as far as like financial planners, I look at your landscape going through COVID. Look, I know I grew completely a lot closer to my financial planners
Oh
during
yeah.
that time. I look at what's going on with the economy, the markets, how AI is shaping how people look at finance. Those are all things that financial planners are dealing with, and they're shaping who you are. Resurgence is about growing into the future in a way that you're stronger and can serve your clients better.
So a lot of our members, speaking specifically about financial planning practices, a lot of our members lead smaller teams. Maybe there's two or three people. Sometimes it's just themselves. They're sole practitioners. What did commanding a fighter squadron teach you about trust that applies just as well to some smaller businesses?
I find that I get humbled at every new chapter in my life. By the time I had become an F-15E fighter squadron commander, I was a lieutenant colonel. I had every single certification and qualification you could have. I had a team of about 100 of the most professional, skillful, patriotic, type A, amazing, fighter pilots and fighter aircrew one could ask for. All this to say, I thought I knew what trust looked like. And to answer your question, it doesn't matter if you're leading a team of one, a team of 10, a team of 1,000. The one thing that being a fighter squadron commander taught me was that you build trust by being trustworthy. I think in my younger years with less credibility, less experience, I often thought that trust on a team came from other people. And as I guess, grew into higher leadership roles, higher levels, I think, of humility, maybe self-awareness, I realized that trust actually emanates outward. It emanates
Mhm.
from your own actions, your own decisions, your own behaviors, regardless if you have a small team, a medium team, or a large team. You build trust by being trustworthy.
So one of the other things that you say is that nobody wants to lead a scripted life. Financial planning is a profession built on plans. So
Mhm.
is there a tension there, or do you see those two ideas as being compatible?
I love this question that you're asking here, because I think, inherently, if you look at the words, you feel like there's tension. But if I kind of start to think about it, I think it's actually very compatible. This idea
Mhm.
of leading an unscripted life does not mean don't have a plan. It means, I think, don't confuse the script with real life. Right.
Sure.
So financial planners, of course, help people. I know my financial planners help me plan for the future. It's a future that's inherently unscriptable by definition, right? We can plan for
Right.
retirement and college, buying a home, buying my teenagers a car now that they're 16, but you can never exactly script the market, the economy, career changes, family circumstances, any of that. And so I think in a lot of ways, a script tells you what you want to have happen, or what is supposed to happen. And I think it's this plan. The plan is what prepares you for what might happen. And so financial planners are the people that are helping me build confidence, resilience, and flexibility, building options when life changes, building options when the script change. And so for me, that's the difference between an unscripted life and why plans are important.
I love that. All right. So, final question before we tie everything up here. So, if someone in our audience remembers exactly one thing from your FPA Summit keynote a year from now, what do you want that to be?
I want it to be that the path to success for any individual or for any team is always going to be nonlinear. A lot of times we see a target and we want to go straight for it, but that's not what the plan, the script, and life has in mind. So it's our ability to be flexible, to have a growth mindset, and to continuously move forward so that the path to success is always nonlinear.
It's amazing. Nicole, if this is just the preview, I can't imagine what the room's going to feel like on November 10th at 8:30 a.m. because that's when Nicole opens our general session at FPA Summit 2026, running November 9th through 11th at the Gaylord National Harbor in Maryland. I hope you'll consider registering today to join me and Nicole for what we are sure is going to be a very memorable experience. You can register today using the QR code right there on the screen or by visiting fpasummit.org. Nicole, thank you again so much for taking a few minutes today. And thank you for your service, most importantly, and for being a part of FPA Summit.
Thanks for having me, Ben. And I look forward to seeing everybody in November.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you too. Thanks, everybody.